In 1925, a man named Victor Lustig convinced 6 of Paris's most successful businessmen that the French government was secretly selling the Eiffel Tower for scrap metal. He collected a massive bribe, disappeared, and then came back and did it again. In 1925, a man named Victor Lustig convinced 6 of Paris's most successful businessmen that the French government was secretly selling the Eiffel Tower for scrap metal. He collected a massive bribe, disappeared, and then came back and did it again. This is the story of the greatest con man who ever lived. Victor Lustig was born in 1890 in what is now the Czech Republic. By the time he was 30, he spoke 5 languages fluently and had been arrested in multiple countries for fraud. He was handsome, impeccably dressed, and had an almost supernatural ability to read people. In the spring of 1925, Lustig was reading a Paris newspaper in his hotel room when he noticed a small article about the Eiffel Tower. The article mentioned that the tower was expensive to maintain and that some city officials had quietly discussed whether it was worth keeping. The tower had originally been built as a temporary structure for the 1889 World's Fair. It was never meant to be permanent. Lustig saw his opportunity. He forged government stationery from the Ministry of Posts and Telegraphs, which oversaw the tower. He then invited 6 of Paris's most prominent scrap metal dealers to a secret meeting at the Hôtel de Crillon, one of the most prestigious hotels in the city. The meeting, he told them, was confidential. A matter of national importance. At the meeting, Lustig presented himself as the Deputy Director General of the ministry. He explained that the Eiffel Tower had become too expensive to maintain, and the government had made the difficult decision to sell it for scrap. He emphasized that this decision was politically sensitive and that absolute secrecy was required. The 6 dealers were stunned. The Eiffel Tower contained over 7,000 tons of iron. At scrap prices, it was worth a fortune. And they were being given the exclusive opportunity to bid on it. Lustig quickly identified his mark, a dealer named André Poisson. Poisson was the most eager of the 6, but also the most insecure. He was new to the Paris business scene and desperate to establish himself. Lustig sensed this and played it perfectly. He pulled Poisson aside privately and confessed, with apparent reluctance, that his government salary was embarrassingly low. The implication was clear. Poisson understood. He offered Lustig a substantial bribe on top of his bid for the tower. Lustig accepted both the bid and the bribe. He handed Poisson an official-looking bill of sale, took the money, and left Paris immediately by train. He waited in Vienna, checking the Paris newspapers daily. Nothing appeared. Poisson was so humiliated by being conned that he never reported it to the police. The shame of admitting he had tried to buy the Eiffel Tower and had been fooled was worse than the financial loss. 1 month later, Lustig returned to Paris and did the entire thing again with a new group of dealers. This time, the victim went to the police. But by then, Lustig was already gone. Over the next decade, Lustig pulled off dozens of cons across Europe and America. His most audacious target was Al Capone himself. Lustig convinced Capone to give him $50,000 to invest. He put the money in a safe deposit box, waited 2 months, then returned to Capone and sadly explained that the deal had fallen through. He returned the entire $50,000. Capone was so impressed by Lustig's apparent honesty that he gave him $5,000 as a thank you. That was the con. Lustig never intended to invest the money. He wanted the $5,000 tip, risk-free, from the most dangerous criminal in America. His downfall came from counterfeiting. Lustig had been producing nearly perfect counterfeit $100 bills. The Secret Service spent years tracking him. He was finally arrested in 1935 after his mistress, angry about his infidelities, turned him in. He escaped from the Federal House of Detention in New York by tying bedsheets together and climbing out a window while awaiting trial for counterfeiting. He was recaptured a month later. Victor Lustig was sentenced to 20 years on Alcatraz. He died in prison in 1947 from complications of pneumonia. He was 57 years old. Before his arrest, Lustig had written a document that was later found among his possessions. It was titled The 10 Commandments for Con Men. Number 1 on the list was, "Be a patient listener." Number 10 was, "Never look bored." The man who sold the Eiffel Tower twice understood something fundamental about human nature. People don't get conned because they're stupid. They get conned because they want to believe. Poisson wanted to believe he was getting the deal of a lifetime. Capone wanted to believe Lustig was honest. We all want to believe the story that flatters us most. That's what made Victor Lustig the greatest con man in history. He didn't sell lies. He sold people the version of reality they already wanted to buy. If you found this fascinating, subscribe for more stories like this. We post new videos every week.